Don Massat. I'm the founder of Sacred Journey Institute and Beyond Wellness. And with me today I have John F. Walter. And John has an incredible story about cancer. And I'd like him maybe get started, some of the history.
Well, back in 2006, in June of 2006, when I noticed after going to the gym for several weeks, and this, what I thought were glandular swellings had not gone away, I went to Urgencias in Granada, Spain, and was informed that I had an advanced tonsillar cancer. And the doctor who told me about this at the time, when he saw that one of the, what he calls bultos, bulges in my neck was like the size of a golf ball, he said I had about a 50% chance of survival. And he said it very straightforwardly, no expression, like he was just giving a news report. I was in shock for a while, but I refused to accept that diagnosis. At the time, I was completely committed to doctors, medicine, hospitals, and so I followed all the directions the doctors gave me. I wanted to save my life, which actually I did. I survived this cancer, this tonsillar cancer, which had at this point metastasized into my throat and neck. And this carcinoma, it took months to shrink in order to have this operation. I had the operation October 12th.
And did you go through chemotherapy or radiation?
I went through a really, massive amount of chemotherapy before the operation to shrink it. They doubted I would shrink it. At one point in the via, there were 3 different bags of chemo, different kinds of chemo, and this was like experimental chemo in Spain, public option, stuff that I probably could have only gotten at hospitals like Cedars of Sinai, Lebanon, or Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic. I got there. And then after the operation, which was a radical removal of not only the tumor, but a cleaning out of the right side of my throat, opening up my entire neck, they did more chemo, daycare chemo, for 6 more months, along with 33 doses of radiotherapy, also focused on my neck. The secondary effects of the chemo is what was most devastating. During the phase leading up to the operation, I lost my lips. I had pustules inside of my mouth. I had never suffered like that in my life, nor afterwards. I was down to 150 pounds. I usually was weighing at 195. I've never gone back to 195 as a result. Now, because of this chemo and the subsequent damage, along with the radiotherapy, I've lost the use of my thyroid. I take synthetic thyroid pills every day now. I've lost my higher frequency hearing, which usually happens to people as they age in their 70s. I've also had an acid reflux condition get worse. Now, most of these conditions have been ameliorated because of the work I've done at Sacred Journey Institute, which I'd like to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Actually, when you went through the cancer, did you ever have a fear of this returning or coming back?
Oh yeah, the problem with hospitals and doctors and chemotherapy in general is that you become so dependent on the idea that the chemo is doing it for you, is saving your life, this poison that is shot into you, that you also feel like you will need it again at some point. You're given a 5-year limit, and if you survive past that limit, you have a good chance of surviving and living a normal life, with the proviso that it could come back one day.
And how long ago was it that you went through those treatments?
The cancer was 8 years ago. From the treatment lasted from June of 2006 to approximately April of 2007, with the operation in October 12th, 2006. So it's been about 8 years. Last year I came here to Chicago. I had been shuttling back and forth between California and Spain, going back to be checked almost 4 times a year until 2011, 5 years into it, getting constant CAT scans, x-rays, doctors, close visual examinations, and laryngoscopies, since the cancer had invaded my larynx, as well as, taken out one of my tonsils. So yeah, I had a real trepidation that this cancer would come back, and so I was constantly checking it, going back to Spain. When I moved here.
What was your experience recently?
Recently, I don't know if it was the stress caused with moving out here, but I think it's because to tell you the truth, I think it's because I started facing a lot of the deep emotional complexes that have plagued me my whole life, that caused me to fall into a pattern of alcohol and substance abuse, from which I have freed myself the last few years. I haven't had a drink since August 14th, 2010, and I've been slowly but surely freeing myself from the thrall of pharmaceutical drugs. This man over here has helped me more than any other individual, because he has this philosophy of self-empowerment and self-healing, becoming aware of our deeper dimensions beyond our physical realm. And I did not realize when I interviewed him back last year in the summer of 2013 that by coming into his influence and also into his care, I would be, in a sense, saving my own life. Because, as I said, I was challenging myself. I was, you go up to the gate and the guardian is not going to let you in easily. And so by starting to face some of my deep fears, my deep anxieties, my deep resentments, for the first time in a lot of cases, I was bringing in to my physical realm once again the demons that had been dormant, and so as a result,
feeling reoccurring symptoms.
I felt reoccurring symptoms. On the other side of my throat, I felt that I was getting another lump in the inside of my throat. My voice was becoming hoarse. I could barely speak after a while. I was teaching every day, mostly in Spanish, since I have that fluency, as a substitute teacher in the public schools outside of Chicago in 2 different school districts. And I was also catering at night. I was working 2 jobs, and as a result I wasn't getting enough sleep, which is how my immune system, on the physical realm, was being suppressed the last time, according to the doctors. On a deeper level, as I've learned from Don Massat here, as well as my girlfriend, who is his protege, Stephanie Brown, my emotions are what the core emotions that I feel are what manifest themselves in my physical reality, in my body itself. And by dealing with these emotions in Don's Sacred Journey Institute craniosacral therapy classes, for the first time on the deepest energetic level, I was challenging myself. These symptoms did recur. I was scared. I was very frightened. I thought that this was it. I was getting the cancer back. I asked Don to give me a series of sessions, and as a result, he began to work intensively on this area, but on me in general. And do you want to take it from there?
So we were working with releasing suppressed emotions, which
Releasing
are the core of the cancer of manifesting. Also working with what we call vibrational healing. And vibrational healing has to do with light workers working with actually regenerating cancer cells. Not destroying, but regenerating. And what was your experience after this work? And actually pretty quickly.
This was what was remarkable. I would feel immediately better and refreshed after a session, during which I practically wept continuously and felt this releasing. There were many symptoms going on. I was having hot flashes, cold flashes, while Don infused me with this light, and I had voices coming up inside and outside of me. I felt a terrific cacophony in my ears. I felt like I was going to burst so many times. I didn't burst. And very quickly, within a few months, I had a laryngoscopy, and even though the doctor who first palpated me in that area, my general practitioner, Dr. Chandra Sharma, had detected a condition there for which she recommended me to go to Dr. Musarraf over at Cedars of, Loyola Clinic in Burr Ridge. She had no general prognosis. She said, get the laryngoscopy. When I did get this laryngoscopy, the doctor reported that it appeared that there had been something there, and it seemed to be removed, and it appeared that there was a certain redness that was left behind, indicating that something had been there and that it had been removed. After the laryngoscopy, the symptoms of hoarseness left. I was able to speak normally again, and my general mood, good humor, and health returned. My desire to sleep, my desire to eat. I stopped losing weight, and my life got back in balance.
And wasn't there a symptom somewhere else in the body also?
That was the strange thing. Even though this symptom had been removed, Dr. Musarraf wanted me to have further tests. I understood that. I'd been a pincushion with the needles. I'd been I probably had done close between 30 or 40 CAT scans since 2006. So I was used to further examinations, that term, always hearing that term. So I went in first for an x-ray and then for a CAT scan. They found a lung nodule, they called it, for which I needed the CAT scan. They found that from the x-ray. Dr. Musarraf came back and said, well, you don't have this lung nodule after all, now that I've looked at the CAT scan, what I saw in the x-ray, but we found a kidney lesion, so we need to send you to another clinic for an ultrasound. I got a referral from my primary care provider. I went to the Advocate Imaging Center in Downers Grove, and I just found out last week that after doing a second ultrasound, the reason why they needed to do a second one is they couldn't believe the results of the first one. This kidney lesion that they had been detected in the CAT scan was completely gone.
This was all during a time period when we were working with you.
With both Stephanie Brown, my beautiful girlfriend, who's also gone through the entire certification program here at Sacred Journey Institute, and has been working in the Beyond Wellness clinic with clients. She's also done vibrational healing herself. her working with me, I would say bi-monthly sessions. Don's working with me over this time since, let's just say, November of 2013 up until last month, September of 2014. Don's worked with me at least 4 or 5 times. First focusing on the throat, and then later on my general health, and Stephanie focusing on my kidney, but also both of them doing vibrational healing, just raising my vibration as an individual, my entire, general vibrational frequency. I truly believe that in both of these instances, with the throat condition as well as the kidney, both of which had been detected by previous doctors and both miraculously removed without a trace in both cases, that this was effectuated through my own self-healing system being activated through the sacred journey therapy as well as the vibrational healing therapy that Don has innovated as 2 of his many modalities here that go far beyond ordinary alternative health craniosacral therapy as taught by such luminaries as John Upledger or the visionary style of Hugh Milne, under which Don studied.
So, in your opinion, which is kind of a rare case here, where you've come through cancer, with a bout with cancer, and went into the medical model with chemotherapy, and you've also experienced reoccurring cancer, where you came in completely to an alternative, working with vibrational healing and craniosacral therapy and emotional releases. In your feelings, what was the most beneficial trip if you were comparing those two journeys?
You mean between the medical, chemical, radioactive model? Well, I have to say, I had a very compassionate experience from the doctors at Virgen de las Nieves in Spain. They did the best possible job that they could to the best, the best of their abilities using the available technologies. I exacted a terrible cost as a result. I lost my. I have a diminished hearing. I have damage to my throat that's permanent, to my vocal cords, as well as I just loss of salivary glands. So
there was a really strong physical experience.
There's a truly, besides an incalculable amount of suffering, which happens when you do that, take in that much chemo and radiotherapy.
What was your emotional experience going through that, which would be connected to the physical also?
A tremendous amount of fear, anxiety, physical suffering, which, because of my Catholic religious upbringing, made me feel like I was getting the punishment I deserved through the chemo. Of course, that was my own perception, but it wasn't an uplifting experience. It was a live through this experience. Whereas by initiating this work, first as a journalist and fascinated by what my girlfriend Stephanie had been doing at the Beyond Wellness Center and in her work at the Sacred Journey Institute. By interviewing Don, I decided to go through these different levels. But by doing this kind of energetic work, working with students, as well as getting these sessions from Don, I felt like I was getting to the heart of the matter. I was getting to the core experience of the feelings that were beneath, constituting the prime movers of the etiology of my cancer. unless you get to the core of the cancer, it can come back. I did it, and I feel like it was an uplifting, exhilarating experience. I feel like this time I was an active participant in my own healing.
Which gave you emotionally more strength.
It gave me not only emotionally more strength, for the first time I feel like the key word is release. I feel like I've released some of the obstacles I have to my own personal growth, resentments, fears, above all, fear itself, the general fear that's behind almost all the negative emotions out there, which is something I also learned from Don.
And do you feel with this alternative treatment that we use with vibrational healing and working with light workers that it's actually made your physical stronger rather than depleting or damaging?
Absolutely. Without any devastating effect to the cells of my body, quite the reverse, in infusing, irradiating of this light energy from these workers, these light workers. I feel like I've been fortified and renewed and rejuvenated and recalibrated in every cell of my body. It's quite the opposite from the chemo and radio experience, radiotherapy experience, where whatever doesn't, kill you later on slowly weakens you because of the effect it's had in a long-term sense on your overall organism's, sustainability and survival. Whereas with vibrational healing therapy, I've learned how to vibrate myself at a higher frequency. I've learned how to, it's empowering because I've learned techniques which at first I thought were simply metaphorical, nice visualizations, but now I come to realize are just a deeper dimension of human existence. Ways of getting into my emotional experience and the spiritual experience that is the journey itself that I didn't have a clue to before. I was using the wrong tools. I was using tools typical of a lot of men of analysis and ratiocination, rational thought, which work in the outside world with things like engineering and, in my case, writing plays and teaching children, but so don't work.
You kind of come from a scientific mind or a left brain, rational, scientific look at things yourself.
I would say I'm fundamentally a right brain individual, but because I was the oldest of 5 boys, my father and mother both went to the University of Chicago. They were both distinguished intellectuals in their own right. My mother class Victorian at her school. My dad had top board of regents in New York City. As their oldest, I was expected to, to carry the family motto and honor and all of that forward. I developed this left brain orientation. I learned that science and working within the scientific paradigm was the only way to verify and confirm my human experience. What I didn't realize was I was setting limitations on my belief system. I was excluding a lot of superstition and a lot of, old wives' tales and things that belong to the past. But I wasn't taking the wisdom tradition of the past, the mysticism, the shamanic healing. I dismissed that along with what I thought was the rubbish of history for the progress of science. By advocating scientism so strenuously, I developed a tremendous knowledge of evolutionary biology, neuroanatomy, neurophilosophy. I do have all of that as part of my identity kit. But now I understand it better, deeper. It's not just simply nomenclature to me. It has real meaning. And I can understand the neural correlates of consciousness for the first time in a spiritual sense, I fully am coming into an awareness of why I'm here, what I'm doing, and how I can impart this to others, which you can't learn from the outside from a third-person scientific point of view. Science excludes the first-person subjective viewpoint, which for Don is the key to understanding how we operate and function in this world, and in this life and any other lives that we may have.
So for you, for your incredible experience that you went through, this vast experience, almost like a roller coaster, doing it again, coming back, and with the knowledge, incredible knowledge that you've garnered from this, if somebody were to be sitting in front of you, struggling with cancer, and scared, afraid, confused, what would your advice be to this person?
My advice would be to, first of all, go within and search out, without judgment, one's own deepest fears and emotions, and start to unravel those knots inside that have been there for so long, that have gone into the body and caused these cells to go malignant. Second of all, I would strongly encourage them to begin to do the kind of energetic work that Don Massat and his evolved light workers do here at Beyond Wellness Center and at the Sacred Journey Institute, to learn how to be infused by light and love, and to do that to oneself, to begin the kind of self-healing that is required to get past just simply healing symptoms, curing. You know, we don't cure cancer, we heal at the deepest level. You know, that's what we need to do. I didn't realize that. I just simply wanted this thing gone, but it won't be gone the same way my alcoholism wasn't simply gone. It's something that I have to tackle because of the feelings that
Emotional core.
right, right. And so before one looks at undergoing the kind of suffering that I went through, with all the secondary characteristics, the loss of in my case, my hearing, my salivary glands, all this damage that's happened to me, and the suffering that I was going through for the months that I was undergoing the chemo and the radiotherapy, I would strongly advise them to take thee to a wellness center, preferably one where workers have been trained by Don Massat and Anya Massat, Dana Massat, Stephanie Brown, Jason Shade, individuals like this who understand how the physical, emotional, and spiritual realm converge, and how one can heal, not cure, but be cured, but heal that I was going through for the months that I was undergoing the chemo and the radiotherapy. I would strongly advise them to take thee to a wellness center, preferably one where workers have been trained by Don Massat and Anya Massat, Dana Massat, Stephanie Brown, Jason Shade, individuals like this who understand how the physical, emotional, and spiritual realm converge, and how one can heal, not cure, but be cured, but heal at this deep level.
And John F. Walter, I want to thank you for letting me be